This goes out to the man who gave this album a 5 out of 10, who's also shaped like a melon. Here's a vibe check for you. I will try, you son of a bitch. Oh, I'm going in that melon patch, and I'm coming out with my melons intact. I'm talking about these. I'm gonna take those seeds from your honeydew and shove them up your ass, because that rind ain't nothing on me. Comprende?
Rap, or is that like slam poetry?
That was, well, Nino Drop posted an Instagram post today that I was mocking / interpreting that said, "This is my defense pose. Just try me, you son of a bitch. No way you're coming back from the melon patch alive. Mess the honeydew and you get the seeds. I carry that rind on me. Comprende?" Hi, my name is Mitchell.
My name is Noah.
And welcome back to the M&N Show, where the M stands for Michael Cera.
And the N stands for Nilk.
Nilk?
Because I got milk, but I didn't get the M.
Is that nut milk?
The N stands for nut milk.
The N stands for my nut milk. You know.
Trademark.
Well, way to start that off, demonetized.
We're not even monetized.
Yeah, but if we were, they'd be like, "Nope, we gave you a chance, and you immediately took it." We're immediately
Almond milk could sponsor us.
I had an argument in college for 2 years about the milk coming out of the teat of an almond, and if an almond has a teat.
That's some small teats.
Well, thank you for coming back. We appreciate it. Whether you're new or old, whether you're a baby or you're an elderly person, we appreciate it.
If you're a baby, I don't know why you're watching us. If you're an elderly person, then...
How did you get this internet connection?
I don't know. How did you get here?
I don't know. Well, we appreciate
Comment below.
So, Scott Pilgrim. The curly-haired guy from Juno. Kevin.
And the guy who invented the woodblock.
Bluth Jr.
Yes, a.k.a. the guy who invented woodblock.
Yes. What do these all have in common? Noah?
Okay, so number one.
There is a right answer. So.
Off the top of my head, they're all played by human actors.
Single actor.
I'm getting warm. Am I getting warm? And they're played by Jesse Eisenberg. Just kidding. We're talking about Michael Cera, who is not Jesse Eisenberg. I don't know why people keep on mistaking them.
Have you seen the meme where Squirtle is Michael Cera and Jesse Eisenberg is Blastoise? Or no, sorry, Wartortle and Andy Samberg is Blastoise. But yes, we're talking about Michael Cera.
Yeah. And let me impersonate the person who's watching this video. Okay. But Mitchell and Noah, why are you talking about Mitchell Michael Cera?
Mitchell. What about the Strokes album? What about it?
Isn't Michael Cera an actor? Well, yeah, he is, but he's also an artist, you idiot. Anyway.
If you know Michael Cera, you know that he sang that heavenly song in Juno duet. He sang in Superbad by Force. He was the bassist as Scott Pilgrim.
He plays like freaking all the instruments.
What?
He plays like all the instruments. My words got flubbed.
On this album, yes. And 6 years ago, he put this album out on Bandcamp. It's called True That. And we were interested because, it's Michael Cera, the enigma of the world and the master of the universe. But also, he covered Clay Pigeons by Blaze Foley, classic country song, and it was amazing. So we're like, well, we got to check out the rest of this. Am I right?
Yeah, you are
Cool.
right.
Cool. Glad I was right. It is my show. Yeah. So how do you want to start it? You want to take the
I think we're going to structure this by talking about the lyric songs.
Hold on, give him a notice. No, to be clear, we're not doing track by track because this album is 3/4 of it is instrumental, so it's hard to do in-depth track by track reviews when a lot of them are just piano pieces.
Yeah.
No, we want to structure it well. But continue.
Well, that's actually what I was explaining, but
sorry, I didn't know. You just came out of nowhere. We're gonna talk. I'm sorry. I was trying to be nice. I didn't mean to steamroll you. I apologize.
For all you instrumentalists out there, I'm sorry we're not talking about the instrumental tracks more specifically, but we quite frankly aren't as, I guess, experienced enough to like talk more in depth about
I do have notes.
Instrumental tracks.
I do have notes.
He does have notes, but like we thought we'd focus it more on like talking about the vocal tracks and then the instrumental tracks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start?
Let's just start at the first vocal track.
Okay. So as we said, 3/4 of this album is instrumental, made up of like longer piano pieces or interlude type songs, but there are about like 5 main songs where he writes like a fully structured song with lyrics and singing in that nature. And in terms of the album, the first song is Clay Pigeons, which again is a cover of Blaze Foley, and also who also was covered by John Prine, rest in peace. So Noah, what do you think of this cover? Because I have a lot to say. Obviously, I want to hear your thoughts.
I've listened to this song a ton of times, and actually my first experience with this song was not with the original, it was with the cover, because I stumbled upon it when I was listening to Spotify when it just gave me a random song. And I was like, this is a cool song. And then I looked on to the song, and I was like, this is Michael Cera. And this is actually the first song I've ever heard from Michael Cera. And it's probably his, I haven't looked at the numbers, but if I had to guess, it'd probably be his most popular. But
it is, yeah.
This song is really cool. I think it works really well as a cover. He adds a lot of things to it. And my biggest pet peeve whenever people do covers is they do it just like the original, and he doesn't do it just like the original. Just like the one, before him. This one sounds a little more, it's hard to say. It's kind of more folky, but also like there are elements of it that are, pretty, I don't know, the piano in this piece is kind of whimsical.
Yes.
Do you understand what I'm saying? It's kind of whimsical, and it just kind of drifts off behind the vocal track, and it works really well. It kind of just like feels like, just the whole song for me, it feels like rain, but also feels like you're just kind of traveling. So it feels like kind of like, of course the song is kind of like about someone who seems like they're kind of finding themselves, and they're kind of, it kind of sounds like they're like sort of fantasizing, like I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna go do that. But it kind of, he does really encapsulate, I think, that feeling. And there's a comment under like the YouTube video I was listening to the album from, because I don't have Spotify Premium.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Poor person alert. And like the person said, this album sounds like a Michael Cera movie, which I can understand that, especially in this song. It just kind of sounds like a, you know, he's been in like a lot of movies where it's like kind of coming of age and stuff like that. It does kind of sound like that. I can see that. And yeah, I don't know. I really like the feel of the song. Really, I like what kind of emotions it's bringing out through the instrumentation.
Very nice.
What about you? What did you think? Was this your first experience listening to it? First of all,
I was the same. This was the first Michael Cera song I came across. In terms of like released on like Spotify and stuff, I'd seen his stuff when he's in his music stuff starring in movies like Scott Pilgrim or Juno. But I think it was Birdie who showed me this song at first. It's like, this is actually pretty damn good Michael Cera song. And I didn't know about Blaze Foley either. I just listened to the original version right before the podcast, and like Noah said, he doesn't do it exactly like it. I mean, the guitar is pretty much exact, but he adds piano and he sings in a higher register than Blaze, so it does feel more whimsical and folky. And again, I didn't know, like, I thought Michael Cera wrote this, since I didn't know about Blaze or this song in general. And I mean, Michael Cera's a great writer, but you know, to give testament to Blaze Foley, this is a very great. It's very great in lyrics. It's very well written, and I do love how Michael Cera delivers it. I love the lyrics as well. I mean, Noah knows about this. Clay pigeons themselves are like clay discs you shoot for target practice. Correct?
yes.
Okay. So it just feels like a man. You know, it's not necessarily like depressing, like he's reached the end of his road, he can't go on anymore. He's just it's a very melancholy song about trying to find your way back to where you used to be and shooting your shot while you can and where you can. The lyric "feeding pigeons some clay" seems pretty shouldn't do that in real life, but
don't advise that.
just getting your it's like a metaphor for loading your gun and taking your shot and just trying to get back to where you used to be. A lot of the songs Michael Cera wrote are more depressing than this, so I can admire how it's not. There's some optimism left in this song. It's not a downtrodden. It's very look forward to the future, in my opinion.
Mm.
And I think it's one of the best covers I've really ever heard. Like, it's always stuck with me since I've heard it. I love it, and yeah, it does. It is his most popular song. It has like I think 5 million plays on Spotify right now.
I like how it kind of builds. The song builds, really, and there's like a harmonica or something sort of tone in the background that kind of builds towards the end. It's not. Do you know what I'm talking about? I don't know if it's a harmonica, but
I believe so. Can't fully recall right now, but I think I know what you're saying. I just imagine.
yeah,
I just imagine the pianos swelling more and more when I think.
Yeah, I don't know. He added different elements to it for sure. And also, if I remember correctly, if you no, I didn't hear this with the whenever I heard it on my speaker originally, but when I heard it on my headphones, I actually heard percussion in the background, but it's sort of echoey and it's really like washed out. It's not very prominent. So I found that really interesting. I listened to it the second time and I heard the percussion in it. I don't know if you caught that.
I actually didn't. That's pretty cool. I'll have to check it out next time with it.
Yeah, I was like, it's one of those things where they put in one of the earbuds and it's on the other. So yeah, definitely do that. Yeah, it's really interesting to listen to. And in this one, I feel like the production sounds the best out of a lot of the songs. The production on this song sounds like the most high quality to me.
I mean, I agree with what Needle Drop said. Like, his review is like a 5 out of 10, which isn't quite what we think, but I watched his review just to get his perspective, and I think he said like this song is better recorded or more well produced, so it sticks out kind of like a sore thumb in a lot of ways because it doesn't quite feel like it belongs in the mix, but it's still great.
And honestly, to add to that, we're kind of going on a tangent, but I don't know. It might have been welcome if the song was a little bit less, was a little lower quality, if to match the rest of the sound quality of the album. Because I kind of like the low quality sound. I don't know. Like, that's a reason why I don't quite get the whole critique. I don't know if he critiqued it and said it was kind of low quality production wise. I kind of liked it. I don't know. I kind of like that. Kind of sounded amateurish. I don't know if they. I mean, like Michael Cera is really like he's obviously rich, and this was made in 2014. I almost feel like that was like an intentional thing. Like he did that intentionally, and I agree. It does stick out like a sore thumb in the rest of the album, but I don't know. Like I kind of like that sound. I think it fits. But
I like it too.
I understand. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Finish your thought.
I think it probably would have fit better if the quality was the same throughout the whole thing. But like, yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying I quite like the the amateurish kind of sound to it.
I didn't think it stuck out like too much that it took away from the album.
Yeah.
Also, I love it in general, so it's not a big deal. But also, the songs kind of vary in like tempo and mood and just production, so it kind of felt like a natural wave. Man, I think it's really interesting. I mean, I thought it was funny. Like he tagged one of the tags on Bandcamp for this album was "dirty," which I can definitely see.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, I can see kind of where his influences kind of shine through. I'll look it up just to make sure. But I mean, again, he's done music in his films, and he had a band as well called The Long Goodbye, and I relate to him a lot because he said Pinkerton by Weezer is like his favorite album. So like that's one of my favorite albums. So I can definitely see the kind of palpable emotion that shines through. But also, if you go off the band's influences, it says on Wikipedia they like Destroyer, David Bowie, Bob Dylan, Brian Wilson, Big Star, of Montreal, Sufjan Stevens, The Decemberists, Death Cab for Cutie, etc. So I can definitely see a lot of those influences pulling in all sorts of ways.
Man, I feel like a normie. I don't know really any of those people except for David Bowie and the Destroyers. I believe I know.
Destroyer.
No, Weezer. Damn.
I know Weezer. Love me.
I know Weezer. They're kind of underground.
I know Weezer. I'm quirky. That's just who I am.
All right, let's go to the next vocal track, I guess.
Right, the next vocal track is "Steady Now." What'd you think of this?
That's a good one.
Yes.
I don't know. You go first. I feel like you're gonna have a more in-depth analysis.
Okay, thank you. I guess I don't know. I got the lyrics just to make sure. I have a lot of notes written down. I just want to make sure I'm saying it right.
You're the one who's like writing notes all the time.
Well, I like to prepare. So I mean, "Steady Now" is the next vocal track with full lyrics, and compared to "Clay Pigeons," and kind of as the track list goes along in terms of lyrical songs, it gets more and more kind of depressing or just dealing with very raw emotion.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I don't, not to say Michael Cera's in a bad place or anything. I relate to him. I like to write about raw emotions or about palpable emotion. So like that's why I really relate. Like talk about it. It seems like this song. It's kind of like me, Main Runner. It's kind of about how you let, or at least him or the protagonist lets anxiety or past mistakes burden him, and which can which is preventing him from like improving his self-esteem or like the possible self-love he could have for himself. So I really relate to that. I think it's really well written and relatable, and a lot of the lyrics that stood out, or at least two of them, and was take your clothes off and jump into bed and search for that happy thought. The one from before about how pleasant it would be if people wished they could be like you. Which, damn.
Yeah, man, he's a good writer.
I think everyone wants to be liked. Like, that's just a natural human emotion. And I think when you have this much self-doubt and anxiety, it's hard to believe anyone likes you. So, of course, that thought, it's not believable, but you kind of hold on to that euphoria if you can believe it for a second. And then also the next stanza was like, throw your shoes on and hop on your bike. The cold air is good for you. Might want to stop somewhere to pray with your friends as you search for a love you can live inside of, which could be self-love or love from somebody else. And then the last stanza to end on is, when will you see yourself? Try to forgive yourself. You just can't help yourself. You just can't help yourself. You just can't help yourself, which then spirals back into that unhealthy mindset. So this felt like the most relatable to me as a person and my personality. I definitely am anxious about every little detail, and even if there are events in your life that aren't as bad objectively, you chalk them up to be the worst that you could possibly think of. So, I mean, I've had things where it just burdens me for years, or it can just come out of nowhere, and at the worst of times, make it feel like I don't deserve to like move on from it. So, I think it's a really good track. And I think Michael Cera performs in like movies, but it wasn't like stuff he written, or it was like stuff like he was playing in the band. So like, I think this album, especially take away the instrumentals, it's just a really, it feels like just an EP of like these lyrical songs. It'd be like an amazing showcase of like how amazing of a writer he really is, which I didn't know. So it's a very pleasant surprise to see.
Yeah, I feel like this song is like really chaotic.
Yeah.
Honestly, it kind of, it reminds me of like some of the kind of reminds me of Moving In,
Mm-hmm.
but it's shorter. Moving In has this sense of like like melodically it goes, there's like some sections that seem a little happy, but then it's not really. It's kind of like it turns sour.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is fully just kind of chaotic, and like it spirals downward the whole song. But it sort of mirrors like some of his other songs he wrote in this, like Moving In, because I don't know, Moving In kind of has this like sort of spiral downward. If that, did you get that from?
This song specifically?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like especially emphasized by like you just can't help yourself, emphasized 4 times. It's just like literally spiraling down the drain yet again.
Yeah, and that's the reason why it kind of reminded me of that, of Moving In. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of times where I hear a short song, and this is like a decently short song. It's like around like this is probably around 2 minutes ish. And I really want more from it, but I feel like this song is like pretty well written for it being only as short as being as short as it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I have a lot more to say about ohNadine, but
Fair enough.
I really love. I like this song. It works, but also it's like what I feel like for a lot of the album. Some of it just kind of, to me, even though a lot of it sounds really like individual in their own right, they all kind of work together to build a feeling throughout the whole album. So,
I mean, I don't know.
it's not like,
Well, I was gonna say like there's a through line between the lyrical songs, which isn't necessarily true for every single one, but like I think there's a clear like narrative through line through the album. It's kind of like drenched in melancholy, but also whimsical optimism, which I think describes a person in general. Just
Yeah.
kind of feels like life just poured into an album. Just this is me in whatever amount of tracks I see fit, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like, this and Clay Pigeons kind of tie in together just to kind of show like a before and after of where you are in life. And then kind of those
Yeah,
days.
it does kind of. I didn't think
Kind
about
of
that
those
really.
days as well. I think Ruth and Nadine stand their own, but like those days, setting
I
up
think
Clay Pigeons
really,
together.
I think melodically this song is really interesting. Uh, I again, I'm going to go back to the whole amateurness. His vocals they're amateurish, but in a good way, and they really show in this song. And because his voice kind of cracks in different parts, you have whenever he gets higher in the melody, but it works. I feel like it really works. I don't know. Like, is that weird for me to think that?
I mean, in terms of vocal range, he kind of does a similar take on all the songs when he sings, but I think just based on the lyrical content, I think it has kind of a charm or just kind of rawness to it in a sense.
Yeah. I
It's just,
mean, it's. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say he's not trying to make some grand statement. He's just trying to tell it as it is, whatever story.
Yeah,
So,
and that's the reason why I really liked this album. And I liked it more than I was expecting because I felt like those two songs, the Ruth and Clay Pigeons, which are the only songs I knew of this album before, would have been the standout ones. And I heard like little snippets of his album before because I don't know, I didn't feel like committing to it. And I was just like, it just kind of sounds weird. So I stopped listening to it. So I didn't really expect that it would sound like this. It was really, like you said, like a pleasant surprise to hear how well he structures things lyrically, but also the way he structures his melodies are really interesting, and they don't really remind me of a specific genre. Really, they don't remind me of like punk or anything like that. They're just I don't know. There's nothing really I can tie it to, but I really love it. I really love how he doesn't really take into account genre or anything like that in this. It's there, and it to me it works.
yeah, like there's a through line in certain songs, but like the album itself, now it's all over the place. It's just I don't know, in the sense like people have their highs and their lows, and I feel like it's kind of representative
Yeah.
of that. But that was City Now, and Noah just mentioned by name the third lyrical song, which I didn't actually know before this. It's called Ruth.
I love this song.
Amazing song.
I love this song. Okay. Let me pull up the lyrics real quick. I can't believe he wrote this, first of all. Let me say this. Is this can we verify? I hope I'm not saying this wrong. He actually wrote this, right?
Well, again, like the standard edition was 18 songs. If you buy the album on Bandcamp, there are 3 other songs, which is another cover and 2 originals. But the only thing he didn't write on this standard version is Clay Pigeon. So he did write this.
It's crazy because I'm looking on Genius right now. It says written by Michael Cera. This is a great song. I think it really. I love how it leads in. I love the percussion, and it really. I love the. I don't know what it's called, but it's that that stick with with the bumps on it, and you go.
That's a percussion.
Yeah, it is a percussion thing, but I don't know what it's called. Anybody out there who cares to comment, if you gotten to this point, maybe comment it below.
Yes.
It's like those things that you would give to like a kindergartner, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, that steady throughout the whole song.
Yeah, I think so.
That's I believe that's what the instrument is.
Okay.
I don't know. It's just, this song really brings to mind like it really, like the other song, Clay Pigeons, sort of encapsulated this feeling of like whimsical daydreaming, but it's also drenched in some sadness because something's happened to the person. This one is like he's thinking about what could have been. And I've listened to this song so many times, and I can't tell whether or not the main character or the person who's singing it is I mean, I know they were with Ruth, but like part of me wonders whether or not he's wondering what their life could have been like if they had a family, because, you know, Ruth lost the baby, and that's what it says in the beginning.
Yeah.
Or if it's just like someone who got involved with this person. I'm thinking it's the first option.
I mean, I'll go deeper in when I have my chance to share, but I think it's the second one personally. But
You think it's the second one?
Of like being involved with this person who's gone through a lot.
Who's gone through? Yeah.
That's my
You
take.
think it's the second one?
Yeah. Well, you can share
You
your
probably
thoughts.
have a more in-depth analysis than me,
Well,
but
we can compare, but share your thoughts.
okay. I don't know. I just love the feeling of the song because it just encapsulates that feeling of thinking about what could have been, but it can't happen at all. Like there's no chance of it happening in terms of like being with someone, or hoping for someone's well-being. And it's just not happening. You don't have that hope at all. I think it's the in terms of like instrumentation, it's different than Clay Pigeons, and it's different than I believe it's different than Steady Now. It's just guitar and that instrument I just said, but I don't know what it's called. But it really works because it kind of makes you feel like it makes you feel really isolated. And the way that Michael Cera sings on this is really beautiful, and I don't know, he projects his emotion really well. And I don't know if like that's because he's such a good actor. I believe he's a good actor. Or like if I'm just imagining that, but I feel like he puts his emotion into this song. Yeah, and I think that rawness in his voice that I talked about before really contributes to the song as a whole. What was your analysis on this?
Well, when I first listened to it, it's strange because the album consists of interludes and instrumentals and songs. The length of tracks varies. Some songs are under a minute, and this song is like 5 minutes plus. So when I first heard it, I thought it was like dragging a little bit in tempo and speed. It's just like as I kept re-listening, I felt like that was to emphasize the story, the lyrics, just to get the full picture in. So, I mean, for anyone who hasn't heard, they wanted like a short synopsis. I like to think whoever's writing the song are putting themselves in it. So it's like Sarah's sitting in a cavern who crosses paths with this depressed, kind of rundown woman, not necessarily her fault, like what life has done to her. And they seem to have a deep or meaningful connection, but it seems either Cera has to let her go to get the help she needs, or knows that he can't stay in her life or help her because of how bad of shape she's in. So even though he deeply cares for her, he knows that, I mean, she needs to fix it. Either she needs to fix it herself, or he just doesn't have like it in him, or he's not like emotionally, mentally strong enough to help her himself. And as I said, compared to like them like losing the baby in terms of like a family they already were, it feels like they cross paths, and just I feel like you can't help who you fall in love with, and sometimes situations like these where some people can be so far gone in many ways, it's just not meant to be. And a lot of the song is like describing him in the tavern, like giving a lot of like story, like it's like you're reading a nonfiction or fiction nonfiction. Like you're getting all the little details of him sucking stale popcorn, smoking in a sunlit tavern, which then leads to them meeting, interlocking, and then going back to his $9 room, which I assume is like a cheap motel room, and just using his toothbrush. It includes so many mini details to fully flesh out the kind of relationship they're forming. But there is a specific passage that said, "Quite a sight." Well, I'll read the two passages. It's like two stanzas. My $9 room, there was nothing on TV. She asked if she could use my toothbrush. It don't bother me. I thank you for the company, she most solemnly said. When I woke the next morning, she had fallen from the bed. Quite a sight, I have to say, where once blossomed a bouquet, now all wilting like a leaf in the ruthless light of day.
That's so good. I love that part.
And then, so when I'm doing these podcasts and like usually just listen to all albums in general, I read the annotations on Genius. As I've said, not a sponsor, but my favorite site to use, but where people can contribute their own thoughts. But it's like the annotation was like, ruthless was wordplay to emphasize her leaving after a one-night stand. But personally, how it read to me, it feels like it's literally painting the picture of her falling off the bed in this either drunk or just mentally fragile headspace. And it's kind of just trying to show how literally ruthless life has been to Ruth. Like so much so that the essence of her has all but gone. And like she's kind of not like dying physically, but she's literally wilting like a leaf in life. Like she feels like she's falling apart and can't handle herself on her own anymore. Like she's been through so much. So I think it really painted that picture really well. And it's like with Steady Now, and Steady Now is more depressing from like a first person perspective, from Michael Cera's perspective. But this is like, we're like looking into somebody else falling apart, and we're just feeling the same sort of heartache and heartbreak, but for somebody else. It's like, in general, we can't even do anything about it. So it's like literally just watching it and something you can't control. So like, and I wrote this down again, I'll emphasize it again. Like Michael Cera wrote all the instrumental parts. He like handled the entire album. So he's clearly talented there. But again, it felt like this song approached it kind of like a book or a short story or a novel rather than a song. So I think he's also a great writer again.
Yeah, this was another song that really had a folk element to it, and it was very much like it was a story and song, and I love when people can execute that well. I don't know like if he had any folk influences, but he could do really well as a folk artist. I really do believe that, because this one was a really great song, and I guess I would probably peg it as a folk song myself because of just the way it's set up.
Yeah. I just think he dropped his album like seemingly out of nowhere. Like it wasn't like he said, "Hey, I'm doing this." He just dropped it, and I haven't really. He doesn't really do live performances either. Like I don't think he's done that at all. So like, I'd be really interested to see this live.
Yeah, me too. I know he did. I looked at Wikipedia, and he did tour around with some people. I don't know if he performed any of this live, but
like I think he was like a touring bassist in like a band called Mr. Heavenly, I know, but like I don't think he's toured his own music. Like I think he just dropped this as like, hey, I made this.
Mm,
So
yeah.
I'd love to hear Clay Pigeons or Ruth or Steady Now, like all this live. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to recreate the entire album, but like it'd be cool to see him as an opening act doing songs like these. Person.
Yeah.
Or even on like a headliner. He's Michael Cera. He can do that easily.
He could definitely headline. He's got the name recognition.
Yes. But do you have anything else to say on Ruth?
Yeah, no, not really anything. I like how simple yet emotionally dense this is. I don't know.
Like
That's a really loaded description, but that's just, I feel like that's how it is. It's kind of simple, yet it's really packed full of emotion and description. To me, it feels like like a painting, like one of those paintings you see that's like a portrait of someone, and you can feel what that, like the pain of the person in that portrait. And that's what I like about this, is that it's a very similar experience.
I totally agree. But that's the third lyrical song. The next one is called "ohNadine." Parentheses, "You Were in My Dream," which
Also known as the most Beatlesy song on
yes.
this album.
And I'll let Noah go because like he loves this song, so he'll have more to say than I do. But this is like a love song for his wife, basically.
Wait, is his wife? His wife's named Nadine?
Yeah, it's his wife.
I didn't even know he had a wife. You did the research.
Well, it doesn't say anywhere. I think he just like randomly found it. Oh yeah, Michael Cera's married. So I mean, he's definitely a private person. But it's not like he's gonna say Michael Cera's married. It's just like, oh yeah, he has a wife. He has stumbled upon it.
This song sounds like a dream.
Nice.
It sounds.
Nailed
This
that
is the opposite of Ruth instrumentally. It's not complex. There are layers to it. Initially it doesn't come out with any harmonies, but he layers it with like harmonies of him, and the harmonies sound really similar to me to like Beatles songs like Because. Did you get that?
Yeah, I do.
And you'd have to listen to this and not, I mean, if you didn't hear Beatles in this, I don't know what you'd be hearing, because like that's exactly what I'm hearing. I think this is a really great song. I think that it's probably one of my favorite songs besides Ruth and Clay Pigeons. I can't say whether or not Ruth or Clay Pigeons is my other favorites. I guess Ruth is my other favorite. But this one is just like really layered, and it feels like really, it gives you the sense of like someone madly in love with someone, and saying that you were in my dream, and you're just like really giddy. It kind of gives that whole experience. I can't really say like what kind of instruments were in this, because I cannot for the life of me. I listened to this like so many times.
I mean, from what I remember, it was like acoustic guitar. There was layered harmonies and ooze and whistling, and I don't remember the
That's
specific.
right.
I don't remember the
Yes, and
instrumentation.
that's
Go on.
the whistling reminded me of the Beatles piece as well. It reminded me of Mother Nature's Son. Reminded me of Mother Nature's Son, where he does that part with the bird whistling.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it reminded me of. And I feel like that really fits, because it kind of sounds like, birds kind of have this connection with like cheeriness and like dreamy cartoons, like it's very cartoony. It's very cheery. I don't know if he was actually going for that, but that's what it reminded me of. Yeah, I don't know. As a whole, I get really heavy Beatles vibes on this song.
Yeah.
What about you?
So
What is your take? What is your take? Hot take.
Well, I got Beatles vibes as well. I mean, it definitely airs back to their psychedelia age, but also has that cutesiness and lyrics to like Yellow Submarine or something. Octopus's Garden feels kind of like a very cutesy song. And also based on the harmonies and the whistling and the acoustic guitar, it definitely feels strong Beatles influence. In general, I didn't have as much to say about this as the other ones. I mean, it's likable in some sense. It's a very cute song for his wife, and I admire that. Like not like you have like in juxtaposition to Ruth or those days you're studying now, you have like a song like a love song for your wife, which I love. That's a great addition. It's just like I was so caught off guard by how well he was writing that I was such a fan of his lyrical stylings and the other ones. So I wasn't. I listened to this a few times. I wasn't really as big a fan as I was the other ones. And this song doesn't really require those like long poetic stanzas to work. Like it works on its own. Just like Nadine, I woke up from a dream last night. All the skies were green and you were the sun. Down on the wave came your daylight. Nadine, you were the sun.
I love that. I think that's so cute.
Or, oh, Nadine, you once had a lovely dream and woke with the pain of loss and looked up at the sky, lost in the darkness around the moon. Oh, Nadine, I'll be there soon. So it works. It's very likable and cute. So I'd say this is my least favorite of the lyrical songs. That's the most hot take I have on this album. But I definitely see why Noah loves it so much. He's a big fan of the Beatles, obviously. But that's my
Yeah, and the thing I think the thing that yeah, I mean, call me basic, but I've grew up with the Beatles and
everyone grew up with
I listened to them.
basic.
Everyone grew up with the Beatles, but I'm just saying like I've listened to them like forever, and it's not just like for me, they're not just my baseline. I know it's really basic to say, "Oh, I like the Beatles," but like I really like the Beatles. I really appreciate.
Beatles?
Have you heard of them?
Dude, Yellow Submarine is blowing my mind right now. What the fuck?
Yeah, I would say the most, if anyone is listening to the song, I would say the most off-putting thing of the song. And I feel like I feel like we are so positive. I feel like people get really like really upset that we're not more negative in our. A lot of the things we've been talking about have been like albums that we've kind of liked, but also we did give some negative.
This was the worst lyrical song on the album. I have my gripes.
Who said that? Oh, you said. Yeah, yes, you said. Like I said Joe. I was like, who are you talking about? No, I was just about to say, I feel like the one off-putting thing for some people listening to this may be the whistling, because it just kind of goes everywhere, and it's really a chaotic thing in the song. But I don't know. For me, it works. I think it just sounds like it fits, because the whole song is just really like stupidly whimsical, as if you're in a dream, but also like stupid, like you're like really madly in love and you really want to like be there for this person. So I think it works.
And yeah. It definitely works better knowing he's married and wrote it for his wife rather than just like this girl he thought of. So it definitely makes it sweeter and hit harder in that sense. I'm just trying to prove that I know that Michael Cera is married and he can't hide from me any longer. That's all I'm saying.
He's coming for you, Michael.
Hey, Mitchell's a form of Michael, so we're like this, neck and neck. Anything else to say?
All right. Yeah, I don't have really much else to say. This is a short track like a lot of these other songs, but I like it. I liked it.
I like it a lot.
I like it a lot. Okay, what can we go to next?
I like it a lot. What am I saying it wrong? I like it a lot. No, it's I like it a lot. I like it a lot. I'm doing it right. I don't know what that was. The final lyrical song on the album is the final song of the album, which is called "Those Days." I will. I have a longer take, so I'll give you my take really quick, and I'll pass it off to Noah, my sexy co-host. First of all, my take, at least how I read the lyrics, it's unreal how depressing this song is. Like,
yeah, I'd agree. It's pretty
the most depressing
pretty
song
depressing.
of the album, which it's the closer. So it's like, okay, we're doing this, and so like, I'll read notes. I'll read some lyrics as well as I've been doing. It's like the first stanza and then the second line as well of the second stanza. I don't know what I just said. The beginning part. In those days when my hands were tied and thinking was suicide, close your eyes, you'd be petrified. So I bought myself a ticket back where I belonged in those days. See a guy like that walking down the street, you'd nearly leave your skin. He's proud to say he's got his wits about him. Take a look at the shape you're in. All the faith you got left is your medicine. Wow. So
Bars.
Bars. I'll just read the rest to give you a thought. So open up wide and swallow that pride and long for a comfort the world won't provide. Adrift on the oceans of doubt in your soul, consumed by the tide, you're swallowed up whole. If only somebody would have told me so, because I didn't put up with much of a fight in those days. I didn't put up too much of a fight in those days. Bars. But in my opinion, the first stanza seems like Michael Cera, the protagonist, he seems he fits very comfortably, or at least thinks he deserves to be here, belongs in the days where he was in so much pain, harkening back to Steady Now, which I think there's a through line there where, you know, he doesn't feel he deserves to be happy, and then kind of hints towards the end when he said, I didn't put up much of a fight in those days, like I just gave in to myself, because, again, I don't deserve anything more. And then it talks about if you saw, when I read it, see a guy that walking down the street, you nearly leave your skin. He's proud to say he's got his wits about him. I think that's kind of harkening back to, I mean, I think everybody feels this way at some point. It's just those days, literally. But like, it feels like other people some people cope with it through humor, just like pure optimism, just having wit or knowing a lot of people. So like other people have means to cope, and it feels like by saying this, he's saying I don't have a way to cope, which that's very sad when it's the last song of the album, which is like I don't know where it goes after this. But then like the lyric that hit hardest was all the faith you got left is in your medicine, which is one of the most depressing lines I've ever heard. It's true. A lot of people can't get by without their medication. People are literally left to the mercy of their own mind. Or sort of not as hard, but like adrift on the oceans of doubt in your soul, consumed by the tide of your swallowed up whole. Very relatable to everybody, I believe. The interesting thing is like Clay Pigeons, the instrumental really reflects the kind of melancholy optimism, and Ruth drags on to emphasize the lyrics. For me, like the lyrics in those days hit really hard in a lot of places, but it seemed like the instrumental didn't really reflect the overall tone. Like the instrumental felt like just kind of there. It was like there's this idea of like The Cure or Vampire Weekend writing sad lyrics to happy or at least happier music, but this instrumental wasn't really emphasizing anything. It was just like it just felt like someone strumming a guitar randomly. So I'm like, what's going on? And then I'm like, to me, because of like how depressing lyrics can be, like I belong back in those days. Only faith left in your medicine. Hold on tight to the ocean, swallowing you whole. Feels like he's trying. It doesn't really feel like a song. Like Ruth felt like a short story, but this kind of felt like he's just trying to get these lyrics and ideas out of his head. In my idea, like,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is what he's going for. It's just how I saw it. It seems like he's reflecting on people on the street. At least they have their wits, kind of like that. So like, he doesn't have much to cope with in general. So I feel like he's just like trying to get this out onto a page and turn it into something useful, like a song, which I think kind of like does a loop around of the message of the album in a way. But yeah, I don't know what you think. I think he's just trying to channel how he feels in some kind of way, just to like, so he doesn't consume himself.
I think it's kind of weird how like the fact he sings suicide in such a, the tone would suggest that it's a happy tune, like
I'm happy. It's just like in between. It's weird.
It's really weird. Like he's like, yeah, when he sings suicide though, it sounds almost like sounds happy. I'm like, that you're not supposed to be thinking of that in a happy tone. And it's interesting because in like the same way, it feels very like disjointed in the way it's set up, and it feels like disconnected from the reality of the situation, the sadness of that situation. And yeah, I get a lot of that, and I think it's really interesting the way he set up the melody and everything like that, because it just conveys a sort of mindset that added with the lyrics, mindset that is like, it's not, the way you think whenever you're in sort of crisis, or you're thinking about dark things. It can be, your thoughts can be kind of jumpy, and I feel like this conveys that jumpiness well. And like you said, it's just kind of like just kind of crazily strumming the guitar, just, there's no direction in it. There's no direction in
He's just trying to
in this song, like The
paper.
Cure or something. Yeah. I really got that. I really did. This didn't really, I don't know, did this song really mirror any other songs to you? Like, did it reflect any of the other songs? Like, to me, it somewhat kind of maybe did, but like not really.
Like in songs in general, like songs on the album.
Did it like feel similar to any of the other songs on the album?
Yes. I feel like, I think I said this earlier. Just gotta make sure. It feels like this kind of connects to Steady Now, and also Clay Pigeons. It's strange. It feels like
I can see that.
It feels like it's going down. Like Clay Pigeons feels like I'm back. Nothing's perfect, but I'm getting there. Steady Now is kind of like, feels like you're in the midst of, you're reflecting, not necessarily a panic attack, just going through the motions, feeling a little depressed, and then those days feels kind of even lower, but found like a second part to Steady Now, because Steady Now is like, well, like all this bad stuff happened to me, so I don't deserve to be happy in the future, and this is like, I only belong in the bad times, is what it seems like. So I think this kind of hops off of Steady Now in a sense, to me. What do you think?
Yeah, it does kind of connect with those three songs, and I didn't really think of that.
I thought of that.
I don't know. I wonder whether, huh?
I was saying I thought of that, like talking it out in the moment.
Yeah.
That listening.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. It's so weird though. He ended it on this note, like. You know, I would have thought by listening to this album that it would have ended more ambiguous, but this sounds more depressing in the way he ended it. But tonally, it sounds sort of ambiguous, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's not
Not a
tonally like
clear tone at all.
the interesting thing about the interesting thing about this album, and something that's theme, like in terms of the instrumentation and like the way that the music is written, is it sounds kind of ambiguous. There are times when you hear a happy song and it turns sour. Like you hear something that sounds happy and it turns sour, and then it's just like it flips a lot. And tonally, it does make a lot of sense. Lyrically, it's very depressing. So, but it works. I definitely think it works. I wouldn't have expected it to end like that. To put that song specifically at the end. So,
I agree. What's weird is I'm looking at this now. It's like you nearly leave your skin. He's proud to say he's got his wits about him. Take a look at the shape you're in. All the faith you've got left is in your medicine. So open up wide and swallow that pride, and literally swallow the only sense of pride you have, and long for a comfort. Long for a comfort, you'll only get through that. So it's like, my God, and when it says if only someone would have told me so, it feels like this entire life is hinging on the use of medication. Which I guess maybe it's going backwards. Clay Pigeons is like like melancholy optimism. Steady Now is like, kind of like a depressive episode in a sense. Feels like just something you mull over for a day or two in the thick of it, and then you kind of move on. And then this is just like, well, I need medication. Like I need to fix myself, and the only way I know how to is to put this down on paper, which is like then it loops back to the beginning of the album. So it's like I can kind of understand why it's at the end, because it kind of just like it kind of in a way gives the album a purpose. It just kind of subtly states.
I can see that.
Michael Cera's great. There you go.
Yeah, that's a great A analysis. I feel like that's all we can say about the vocal songs, unless there's anything else.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say those are the lyrical songs, and now the rest of the album is a collection of instrumentals, which also kind of reflect the up and down melancholy feel of the album as well. Just they don't say it, like you kind of just have to build off of what the title is and then what you personally feel.
I feel like it's gonna be difficult for me to talk about each one of these like individually, because it's gonna be difficult to remember, because they all the instrumentals kind of have a feeling about them that's similar, but also they're different. They're way more similar than the lyrical tracks. Okay, well I'll start with this. I want to ask you something. I want to ask you, what did you think about Uhohtrouble? First of all,
it's aptly titled. First of all,
yeah, it sounded.
It's disorienting for like a opening track. Again, I'm not a virtuoso, so I'm not going to break down every single like little instrumental part he did, but like it's definitely disorienting. But like he's kind of like rolling the guitar in the end, like that was cool. So I mean, again, what Anthony Fantano said, it definitely sets the mood for the album. Just kind of disorienting. You don't know what you're going to get. It's kind of a little all over the place, like how like an actual human is. That's my personal thing.
Really, like there's a lot of like contrasting in tones. It starts off like sort of a keyboard track, and that's describing Uhohtrouble. It's a lot of like contrasting tones, and it's just kind of grating to the ears and sort of disorienting.
Yeah.
And honestly, originally it sort of turned me off, but the more I listen to it, the more I kind of like it. But I don't know whether or not that's just my mind saying, "Oh yeah, you should like this," because I'm listening to it more, or or if it's me like appreciating it more. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I wish it didn't. I don't know. I do quite like that it begins like this. I like that the album begins like this. But also it's difficult to listen to. It's not bad. It's just that your your ears don't really like want to listen to it.
Yeah, it's like, what are we doing right now?
Yeah.
Oh, trouble.
Almost sounds like it's a step away from being. Well, it's not really quite that much, but what I compare it to is like it's almost a step away from like listening to like freeform jazz or whatever, where it's just like everywhere. It just sounds like people like it's just you don't know what's happening at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you rather would you want to go through them one by one, or do you want to like tackle what you remember standing out, or like your favorites?
I'm gonna talk about my standouts. I think for
Okay.
me, I really really liked. I guess we didn't ever talk about What Gives, by the way. This is one that we didn't really count in the lyrical tracks, but it's also it's a little under a minute.
Well, like this one has like lyrics that sit. They're kind of just like another part of they're just like another instrument. It's not like trying to tell a story. It's just like, well, I mean, it is, but it's very brief and very attuned to the song itself. It's not like a full-fledged song, but it's a great idea. Like there are songs like this that have like a stanza, and then like a lot. There's like 3 songs that like sample like dialogue, so like it's all over the place. But I mean, What Gives is right after Clay Pigeons on the album. Lyrics are very short. It's just like, first of all, similar to Uhohtrouble. First of all, it's even more disorienting than Uhohtrouble. And
Very much.
I feel like I feel like I'm having a nightmare or a fever dream, and I'm in a circus, and everything's just fucking in my face. And it's like, hey, now, what gives? I don't think it goes like this. I don't think it goes like this. Like this. I can't live like this. I can't live like this. I can't live like this. I can't live, parentheses, I can't live like this. So this feels like a nightmare in a song, which is very weird right after the most melancholy, optimistic song on the album. It's like, we're going to do this. Oh, wait, no, you're not. Or like, you got to go through the shit first before you can get there, bitch, or whatever.
Yeah, it does feel like a nightmare. Yeah, and then also it just kind of sounds like the drums and everything build. It's just like it's just like, and there's a child like crying in the back. Do you remember that? There's a child crying in this track.
I'm glad to know.
There's a child crying, and it just makes you stressed. It's a good song, but I was just pointing that out and talk about it. But it's weird because it kind of doesn't really fit in either the instrumental category or the vocal category because it's so short. That's like there's a lot of short songs, but it's so short and jumbled. It's just like, yeah, there's lyrics in it. Yeah, there's instrumentals, but like, it's not. You can't really. There's not a lot to say about it. It's really unique.
Just that nightmare we don't talk about in general.
Yeah, it is. That's what it feels like. It's like a nightmare you had that you don't ever talk about because it's really just crazy and yeah, you don't want to say anything about that relive it. I guess for me, my favorite ones were I liked moving in. I liked Off of Thursday. Someone's trying to call me. I'm reading all the.
Tell them no.
I really liked. Let's see. Gershy's Kiss. that's I think my favorite instrumental now that I think about it.
Really?
Gershy's Kiss is my favorite instrumental. You can put me down as saying that. That's a great one.
I don't agree, but we'll get into that.
You don't agree? Okay. It's I feel like my favorites are, I liked Of a Thursday.
Yes.
That one I liked that one because it kind of feels, Moving In has this sweetness to it, but then it sours near the end. Sort of just progressively sours. And it feels like that feeling whenever you're I don't know if he was going for this, but it feels like whenever you're moving in somewhere new and like you're trying to feel happy about it, but you're not. You don't really like that. You don't like moving to somewhere you don't know about.
Which perfectly precedes Clay Pigeons. It's right before that song, so it makes sense.
Yeah, it's right before Clay Pigeons, this one. Of a Thursday has a
very classy,
mellow, relaxing feeling to it.
It felt like I was watching a black and white silent movie. It was like ballroom dancing. Like it was very, all right. Nice.
It was kind of Gershwin-y. I don't know. It's kind of nice.
Very classy throwback.
I saw someone in the comments. I just think if anybody watches our video commented on this video, they said it was kind of a lot of the piano parts were Gershwin-y, and I agree with them. And I feel like this one kind of is Gershwin-y. Gershy's Kiss. That one for me was, it felt like falling in love, and it felt really whimsical and felt it was reminiscent of some piano aspects of Clay Pigeons. For me, do you see what I mean?
I'm gonna grab something to give you kind of a visual note, but keep going.
Yeah, it kind of felt like, I really wish I could get into, like, I'm not a piano expert, but for this track, it was very much like feeling like romance and some of the whimsical feelings of like especially whenever you first start dating someone, like that newness. So it almost kind of feels like new love, I guess I would compare it to. And it's really nice. I really love this one. And I really like Kettle as well. Kettle was really, it reminded me of the warmth that you feel whenever you listen to, I don't want to make this sound corny or undersell it, but Kettle kind of reminds me of the work in Minecraft, and it feels very warm in the way the chords are set up, and it's just really reminds me of Minecraft and that feeling of when you're just sitting and it kind of reminds me of sitting and chilling playing Minecraft for me, and it gives me that sort of warm and safe feeling. I like that one quite a bit.
It's interesting.
Those are the standouts. There were so many more, but those are the standouts. My least favorite, I guess, would be 2048.
Okay, we are like listening to different albums, my friend.
Really, you didn't really like you liked 2048?
That was great.
It's not like I don't like it. Just like for me, it didn't connect as well as others.
All right,
but I did like it.
Fair enough. I'll give my takes. I'll start with what you just said. Again, I feel like this album specifically, I feel like we have the most differing opinions compared to what we've covered before. For me, I listened to Kettle a bunch of times. I didn't really have much of a connection, and I don't really have much to say about it, honestly, just from my perspective. Of course, if any of you are interested, we can't do songs justice that are instrumental by talking about them, so please check them out. We're going to link
please
every
check
song
this
in the
out.
description, so please, for yourself. But Kettle, for me, didn't really do anything for me, and that was really the only song I didn't have really anything to say specifically. in terms of Gershy's Kiss, so like when you're dealing with an instrumental, a lot of times you have to go off the title to kind of get a little bit of the sense of what it's going to be, but titles can throw you off, of course. So like I hear Gershy, I've never heard the word Gershy, first of all. So like it's for some reason it sounds like a nickname for like a grandmother, just off the cuff.
Sounds like a double entendre for like,
maybe
someone named Gershy and like, there's Hershey's Kisses.
that too. But like, and then I looked it up on Urban Dictionary because that's where it came up. And like, Gershy is kind of like a combination of cuteness and creepiness. So like, really, I don't know what the song means. Like, I didn't get as much of a connection as you. It definitely has a melancholy, longing, introspective feel to it. So I mean, it kind of feels like an instrumental continuation of Steady Now as well. And I liked about this because it's like there are songs like this and a song later in the track list called Old Gray Whistle, which kind of reminded me when I was in high school. I mean, I've been into YouTube since like middle school, like late elementary school when I started. And like, I drew this, which is why I was grabbing it. But like, Casey Neistat, I don't know if you know who that is specifically, but he was kind of like the OG vlogger. He's a filmmaker. He was my favorite. He was like one of my biggest influences for like many years. He still is in a lot of ways. And like he's most famous for like the way he revolutionized the vlog, doing it like a movie, like a film, short film every episode. But like before the vlog started, he did like short, like 20-minute short film pieces. He used to have a TV show, and he used to do like videos on his son or like trips he made or just dropping out of school or being adopted, etc. There are many topics, but like specifically the one he made of his son, who he had when he was 17. He used a lot of great instrumental piano tracks. So like this and Old Gray Whistle reminded me of like when I first started watching Casey Neistat, those great nostalgic, introspective feels to them. For anyone watching, like whether or not you're a fan of Casey Neistat, I believe the video I mentioned is the one this is in. But like there's an instrumental track called Saint European King Days. It's by a band called Opium Flirt. It's an amazing song. It's one of my favorite. I'm not specifically an instrumental guy. Like, I mean, of course I support my friends like Kyred and I like a lot of what he's made. And like I like an instrumental song from Modest Mouse called Milo Interlude, but like this is one of my favorite songs of a while. It's amazingly put together. So please check that out. Noah as well. Please check that out. I'll send it to you later. But and then so that's how I felt about Gershy's Kiss. It wasn't like a standout, but it did remind me of the old days of watching Casey Neistat. And then in terms of 2048, the ending was all right, but like I thought that was I don't know. I really liked it personally. Like it also felt detached in a way because I mean, to me it felt like I was like watching like a title screen of an 8-bit video game or something, or like I'm just like watching this character standing up on a hill with his hair flowing, watching the sunrise. And it's like ready to play. And I don't know. I really love the feel and setting it sets, even though it's also detached from like in terms of instrumental the rest of the album. Like there's
I think that's one of the main reasons why I didn't really dig it as much, because
there's
it just felt like
glitchy elements throughout the album. This one is specifically that. So I get what you're saying. I just really enjoyed it specifically. In terms of like instrumentals I really loved, I mean, let's see. I mean, I'll touch on Moving In. We kept bringing it up. It is the second track of the album. And I was reading like Genius Annotations, and I believe this song connects with Sexy Danger, which is the best name of a song ever. But Moving In and Sexy Danger sampled this like viral meme video called Ghetto Reporter. The video's hilarious.
Yeah, that's right.
But like I thought it was interesting because the sample of Moving On is I'm dying in this fucking country ass fucked up town, and then it goes into like this like songs Noah said about moving to a new place, starting your life over, feeling uneasy. And it was weird because like just based on the sample and like the very little I knew about the video, it felt like, I don't know, I just kept recalling like a lot of the civil rights crimes that have been happening lately. So I thought it was gonna like this like weird not weird, but like grand political piece, which it wasn't that specifically. Like I don't know if you felt that way. It just I was just reminded of what was going on in our reality. So I didn't know what was gonna be after Trouble. But then really it's just like this like grand driving piano piece. It's moving us into the album. Like if you think of those days as like circling back, it kind of feels like we're going like moving into the space of the album. And like so it's very I agree with what Noah said. It's just an interesting song to dissect. And then Sexy Danger also samples it, or another part of the video as well, which sorry, this is verbatim. Shit flying in my mouth, the fuck, I can't see. Pollen, let's get the fuck out of this country, motherfucker. I can't even see where. Thank you.
Bars.
That was my slam poem. So, I was glad to see that make a comeback, but like specifically, I felt like it was like the flip side of moving in, just how like ohNadine is the flip side of Ruth, where it's like or even similar to the optimism of Clay Pigeons, where it's like a rebirth or rebuttal of yourself. Because like moving in is kind of like the challenges of starting over and everything that's sweeping into your life. And Sexy Danger is a funny title, obviously, but I feel like it's just like a different way of saying like I feel nervous, but it's like a good kind of nervous. Like I'm at peace where I am, and I'm like feel like I'm getting there, like I'm ready to take charge.
Yeah.
Like, I feel again, I dissect a lot just because I'm interested. But those were good. Songs like Old Gray Whistle, as I said, and even Smoke Eyes also have that Casey Neistat piano feel. It was also interesting, like, just the amount of interludes there were. Like, it's strange to have an interlude when most of the album's already instrumental, but they were still good.
Yeah, there's a lot of the interludes were like, I was telling Mitchell this before, like, I feel like a lot of the interludes and, like, the small pieces, even though it doesn't really sound like a cohesive work, it also kind of builds to make a feeling of this whole album. Like, talking about each song individually, it's difficult to do that because they all work together to make a specific sort of feeling and journey when you're listening to it. I don't think they would work quite as well as if you didn't listen to the whole album. If you didn't listen to it, you know, with the context of all these other songs.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just me, but I feel like a lot of these are just they really work better if you take time to like actually listen to the whole album as a work. The vocal pieces, yeah, some of them stand alone pretty well, but even vocal pieces, like a lot of them, they work better within the context of the album. They just do. And I don't think you could just pick one out and put it in your playlist. I don't think you can do that. I think you'd have to sit and actually listen to the album.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why it's a little difficult for me to really like pick apart each song.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Especially for the instrumentals. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, I always did. There's great moments throughout all instrumentals, like some are better than others, but some are really great. And 2048 for me specifically. And I mean, it's more interesting to talk about than to like sometimes listen to, I guess. Like I'm finding a lot of joy in trying to dissect the meaning behind them. even though they are made, and I enjoy what Michael Cera did. And
now I want to kind of bring up something. I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
Please.
Okay. Let's talk about the concept of deliberate, like how much of the sound of this album was deliberate and how much of the sound of this album was a product of Michael Cera's sort of inexperience with music, and this is his first time doing music.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you feel, what do you feel in terms of like when you're listening to this album, what do you feel that do you think it was more on the side of unintentional, or do you think the sound was more on the side of, oh yeah, they intentionally did this? Because
Unintentional.
an interesting thing, and unintentional as in like, this is just someone who's just sort of writing music and they put it out there and they didn't really think about the quality. They just wanted to put it out there. Sound quality and all that, production quality. Because I saw, the reason why I'm bringing this up is I see when you look into the comments under this album on YouTube, they talk about, there's people who like say, I don't know if I hate or like or love this album because, and there are people in there who like, there are two types of people. There's either people who think this album's complete crap, or there are people who think this album's an actual like masterpiece that has been undiscovered. And there's also a comment in there that said, people, in here saying that the piano is out of tune, which it is somewhat out of tune. The piano is out of tune as if that's a thing he did on accident. And I'm trying to figure out whether or not that was something he did on purpose. It works to me. It works. But like, I wonder if that's something that was on purpose or not. And I can't really tell.
Well, first of all, clay pigeons alone prevents the album from being crap. Honestly, like I feel
Really?
like, I feel like anybody could. I feel like a lot of people like, as a whole album. Sure, you have your opinion, but I feel like anyone can like. I feel like anyone I've talked to really likes that cover. So like, there's
Yeah.
at least something people can get behind. In terms of intentional, I feel like it was intentional. Because like, I mean, it's up and down, it's scattershot, it's all over the place. Interludes, very ranging lengths. I mean, I don't know if it. I mean, I wouldn't say cohesive. Like, not everything flows really well, like one through one. But like, I feel like it's all trying to paint a bigger picture that, in some way, culminates in those days. More so, I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like it kind of. I feel like all these songs. Of course, the order can be messed around to paint the own story in his mind. I feel like it's just very scattershot to. I feel like it's just a culmination of what he's made and what best represents him either at that time or when he was making it. But also, as I've said, like, he had a duet in Juno with Ellen Page, which everyone likes. He played like bass in Scott Pilgrim, and he's really good at bass. And like, he contributed to those songs on the soundtrack that were Sex Bomb, which were great.
I mean, he contributed mandolin work to a Weezer song.
He played on a Weezer song, and he's a touring bassist for like a band, and he had his own band. So, and he played every instrument. So, like people are like, the piano's out of tune. Well, people are like, that's the point. And like, of course, it sounds pretentious when you say that, but like, I do think he wrote it very intentionally. I don't think it's just like, yeah, fuck it, and then threw it out there. Like,
yeah,
I'd like to think
I
it's
agree.
very intentional. Like he's just doing what he thinks sounds best or best represents a raw emotion or just the emotion he's trying to convey.
So you're on the side of this whole, the piano out of tune, the overall sound was an intentional, deliberate choice.
I mean, I'm not saying that like I respect art on a higher level than everybody, and like for example, ohNadine is very weird. It's not like very enjoyable in some parts. Like it's enjoyable in general, but like just because like it's out of tune, even that was the point, that doesn't mean I'm gonna like it just because that was his point. It just means like I don't think he's being anti-deliberate. And it's also kind of funny. It's kind of like kind of not like this is a very raw album, and it's called True That, which the title is like deflecting emotion. So I feel like, in a sense, I feel
right.
if I feel like I don't know, it's very deliberately messy, I guess, because that's people are messy. I don't know.
See, I would tend to agree on that. I would tend to agree because, like you said, he's like he can play multiple instruments, and I feel like he wouldn't make the mistake of, oh well, my piano's out of tune. I don't think he would make this mistake of like not knowing that his piano's out of tune. I feel like that, you know what I'm saying? Like if he knows how to play those instruments, then he's gonna try his best. But I think that's what he felt like that was fit for the album.
It's kind of not completely similar. It's just like if you tie back to the Beatles again, for example, I was watching like Ringo Starr talk about some of his drum fills, like Ticket to Ride or Come Together. And like in some senses, like it's funny that the coolest things are like accidents. Like Come Together is only done, it only sounds cool because he couldn't like put one arm over the other, so he had to like do it the other way. So like sometimes like you don't mean to do it, it just ends up sounding cool. So on the opposite end, maybe he's I mean he could have come upon a sound like that and be like, huh, that's actually really cool. So he could have like stumbled upon it and went with it. Or it's just like it's very deliberately. This is how I feel. Like there are happy accidents in music, but it's also like it can also be very purposeful, I guess.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. Or I mean, he could have just stumbled upon some of the ways he did it accidentally and be like, "Oh, this is better than what I was going for originally. Let's go down this road and make weird."
There's a feel that I like from this that God, I hate to. There's a few things that I get from it.
From the album?
There's a few different kinds of appeals that I can get from it. I feel like the whole like choice of it being sort of like a raw and somewhat amateurish production helps the album. The only reason why it's sort of a downside is because Clay Pigeons sounds so different.
Yeah.
In terms of production, and so it sounds a little bit less cohesive. And so in that way, it kind of reminds me of production like you know how it's like Tyler the Creator like has very dirty sort of production that's like sounds like he's like messing around on the computer and like his beats and all that. Like it gives me that feel. It kind of gives me that whole like I'm just sort of throwing things on the wall and I'm trying to see what sticks, but also intentional. Like he knows what he's trying to go for.
Yeah.
But also I can see the somewhat like appeal to it that's I can't remember they're kind of a joke band. Of course my phone's back alive. I can't remember them. Do you remember that list of have you ever heard of like this notoriously bad band that was in a list of Kurt Cobain's like favorite bands, and this specific band was literally just like a band that was like this family, but they all sucked at playing instruments.
Hold on.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, hold on. I got this.
Actually, a song from.
Don't worry, I got
this.
It. The Shags.
The Shags, okay. And I am not trying to down Michael Cera for this, But
comparing Michael Cera to the Shags right now?
no, I'm not. But I can see Shag's appeal to this, and here's why. I don't know if anybody unironically likes the Shags, but I can see why someone may unironically like the Shags, because like it sounds so amateur and just like you can't. There's a thing about this, you can't replicate it. You just can't. The way they played was so bad, so technically bad, that you literally can't replicate it because it's just random. And honestly, that's kind of interesting. It's a really interesting thing to think about. Like if they did a live performance of it, each live performance would not sound the same. And that's what I kind of feel like I like about this work, because so much of it in the interludes and some of, they're not all of it, but like some of it has a sense to it that's just like were there in this moment when he made it, and you're never going to hear that song the same way if you performed it again. It's just going to be, it's not the same. And I think that's really interesting about it. And that's the reason why, that's another appeal. I feel like that I'm not trying to compare him to the Shags, but I'm also sort of comparing that quality of it to the Shags, and like how like it's kind of really amateurish, but like it's cool because you're not gonna like, it's so jumbled and so crazy that you're just not gonna hear it the same way ever again. So I don't know. That's the kind of the two overall notes I had about the album.
I get what you're saying in terms of just very specific outcome. The Shags are bad because they're tone deaf and don't know how to play instruments. I think Michael Cera just wanted a specific sound, or even just ended up a specific sound. And I can get
The Shags definitely were bad. But do you see what I'm saying? Do you get what I mean?
Kind of.
Like there's some songs in the album that kind of have this quality where it's like you'll never hear it the same way again, and that's a really interesting thing. That's a really interesting concept to me, that it encapsulated this one time in which they were playing, and because of the nature of the like way it was played, you're not going to hear it exactly the same way ever.
Is there a certain example on the album?
The beginning track, Uhohtrouble. How could one play that? Or let's say shoot, the one with the I can't live like this.
What gives?
What gives? I don't think I could. What gives has a structure to it, but it's also very much, it hinges on that chaotic nature. You're not going to hear it exactly the same way. There's a lot of jumbled notes within it.
I agree with that in some songs, like those two specifically. It's just like I don't agree fully. Just like Clay Pigeons is so well structured and covered.
Yeah, I'm not saying the whole album, but
it's so well made, and then like there's just like so well written a lot of songs. So it's like I don't see why people think it's trash, because I don't think it's trash. It's just like I don't know, like
I'm just saying that some of the songs have this sort of this feel to them, and I'm not saying the whole album, but some of the songs have a feel to them where it's just like it gives you that unique experience.
I agree with that, and also like this doesn't feel like an album that's put through a filter or
Yeah.
not commercialized.
Yeah.
It's just this is what I want to do. This is how it sounds. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I brought up.
It is well produced, sure, but like everything else is like I don't know. It speaks to something.
It kind of, yeah, and that's the reason why I brought up Tyler the Creator and the Shags, because they both have an unfiltered quality about them. One is like the unfilteredness is like literally it was just like this family band, and they didn't really know how to play instruments. But then for Tyler the Creator, it's just like he sort of intentionally makes it all sound like a dirty production. So in those two senses, it sounds raw. It sounds just like here is what I'm putting out to the world. And matter of fact. Huh?
Here's my soul. Take it.
Exactly. But yeah.
It's just uncut, raw, and messy in a lot of places.
Yeah.
I like that.
I think there's a lot to appreciate for that. I really appreciate that. I'm not going to say that I'm going to sit here and listen listen to the Shags, but I can appreciate the way he kind of harnesses that feeling. Even though he's already like he's like an instrumentalist, a trained instrumentalist in his own right. So I mean, not trained, but he practiced, I would assume. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I feel like that's really interesting aspect of it, that he sort of harnessed that aesthetic for the whole album.
You have anything else to say on the album?
Nothing really. That was kind of my grand opus.
That's my spiel. Michael Cera is a member of the Shags. It's confirmed.
Yes.
Well, that concludes this episode. Of course, I'll link you down to the individual songs in the order they're meant to be listened, so you can enjoy this uncut, this beautiful, dark, twisted fantasy all for yourself.
Different album.
Yes. And thanks for tuning in again. Thanks for watching. We'll have more albums discussed on the way. We have more interviews planned with local musicians. And someday, we'll be masters of our domain.
Someday.
Someday by the Strokes. Someday. But I have been Mitchell.
I have been, and I still am, Noah Pagan.
I'm not Mitchell anymore. Once this camera shuts off, I'm done.
He's not Mitchell.
I am Mitchell Matthews 1 to 3 hours of the week. Otherwise, I'm just me. You get it.
Yeah, and that's our that's our show.
All right. Thank you. Good night.